Hi again. My name's Kim.
And I'm Shelly.
And today we're going to talk about something that can make everybody feel a little uncomfortable. And it's when you are in relationship with somebody who's feeling grief or loss, or a loved one has died. What do you say to the person who's grieving? Maybe more importantly, what don't you say to the person who's grieving?
Yeah.
So, Shelly, what are some thoughts you have?
Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
In our culture of sugarcoating everything, I think we're all a little bit programmed to kind of always try to find the bright side.
Yes.
When something hard is happening. And that doesn't always support a person who is grieving or experiencing a loss and is really in the depths of their feeling or their process around it. And so let's talk about how can we better support and talk to our people from this place.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel really uncomfortable, like not knowing what to say. And so having a few bits of guidance,
Well, the first thing that I want to say about that is if you feel the urge coming up to try and sugarcoat something, everything's going to be okay. Resist the urge and maybe try to get a little bit more comfortable in just being in those moments of silence. It's okay to take a beat, and in the midst of when someone is sharing a devastation that they're experiencing right now, I'm so sorry that you're going through this right now. What is a way that I could support you? Something as simple as that would be a really kind way of letting someone know I'm here for you, and resist, like just let go. It's not something you're gonna fix, right? We're fixers by nature, and we want to problem solve everything, and we want to make it better, but that's simply not always possible, and it's okay that we don't need to have the answers for that.
Right. And I've heard some Brene Brown say that any conversation that starts with at least, if somebody's experienced a loss, well, at least you still have, this other person, or, that's just like one of the least helpful things to say.
Yeah. So in that, what we want to be mindful that we're not minimizing that person's experience, and never underestimate the power of healing in just allowing someone to feel seen in what they're going through. And so what that could be is just, I'm so sorry, and I'm here to support you without trying to make it better.
Yeah, and it's also okay to ask permission. Sometimes you can say, would you like a hug right now? Or would you like me to bring you a meal? Can I give you a break?
In what ways can I support you?
Exactly. And you can make suggestions. The person can always say no. And the other thing is you can ask permission, like, is it all right if I talk about Dave, and say, is this okay? And a lot of times people who have lost a loved one want to talk about that person and want to do a little bit of, have a conversation like that, just process what happened in a little, not in a therapeutic way, but in a way that just helps them express themselves.
I think also it's really important to, in an effort to try to feel like you want to connect with somebody, is by sharing now your story that might say, I understand what you're going through because I just went through this other thing before. And, so now I want to tell you about that. But what actually that's doing is it's kind of dismissing. It's dismissing the other person and what they're feeling. And now you're sort of taking center stage and possibly even asking them to hold space for you. And we want to be careful not to do that. Our first inclination is,
Right.
I'm making a connection, and now you might feel like this is my way of saying I understand what you're going through. But really, when someone's going through something so difficult at the time, the best thing you can do is just hold the space for what they're sharing, and not divert it into another direction. This is you giving them your attention.
Right, and the person who's experienced loss oftentimes feels like they have to emotionally support the people around them, because the people around them they don't understand how to process or hold that space. So what I'd like you to do is, we use the word hold the space a lot of times. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to hold the space?
Holding the space means being present in the exchange, in the conversation, and it's having eye contact. It is leaning into what the other person is sharing and just being fully engaged with them, and allowing them to share with you what it is that they're sharing.
Right, without having to think about. I think sometimes what some of us do is somebody will be telling us some big piece of information, and then in our minds we're thinking, okay, what do I say next? I have to, and so we're planning, and then we're not being present.
Listening.
We're not listening.
Yeah.
We're not being present.
Yeah. So active listening is another term that we use here when we're talking to people about how to do this the right way. But what that means is you're present, you're fully present, and you're thinking about what they're saying, and you're acknowledging it back to them in a way that lets them know that they're feeling like they're being heard.
So tell me a little bit more about open-ended communication. What is that?
So an open-ended question or an open-ended communication is where you're asking someone a question that's where they're going to be giving you a detailed answer, versus just a yes or no response to something. It's going to open up an opportunity for you to continue the weave of the conversation, and really helping you to connect with the person. Like in that space, they're going to feel heard.
Yes.
Because now you're asking them questions about what they're talking about.
Right. And you mentioned earlier silence. And I think that's, how does a person practice sitting in silence when someone's just delivered hard information?
Yeah, that's uncomfortable. And we need to just learn how to get comfortable in the spaces, in the silent spaces. I think we're all a little bit programmed from our culture to just like want to fill all of the spaces with words. And when we hold the silence for somebody, when we sit in silence and are resisting that urge to try and find an answer or a solution, we're letting them find their solutions and maybe find their own discoveries. As they're talking to us, they're hearing themselves sort of work something out. And if we hold a pause and hold a moment of silence at the end, then in their minds, as they're talking and thinking about what they're saying, they might be working something out, and all of a sudden they're seeing something and going, oh, yes. I just figured this out.
Right. And we can also ask people, we can say, is it okay if I just sit with you quietly? You don't have to say anything. Because I think sometimes people feel, this is part of that, where people who have suffered a loss or a serious grief feel like they have to take care of everyone around them. And if you're offering to just sit quietly with them, they don't have to do anything for you, that can be really relieving, that they don't have to show up anyway. And,
Right. Yeah, that it's just, it's okay to just be. It's okay to be sad. You don't have to pretend, I'm feeling great, but I've just gone through this most devastating loss in my life, and I'm, You know, I'm barely functioning as a human right now.
Right. And sometimes other emotions will come up. Like sometimes people will go through a loss and they're either they're frozen or they're stunned. There can also be like they don't feel anything at all. They feel relieved sometimes.
Yeah.
Or they feel angry. So there's a lot of or there's an array of emotions too that we have to be ready for as listeners holding the space.
Yeah, I think you just hit on something that was just really key. It's just listen. Practice the art of listening.
Yeah.
And this is something that we can do in our everyday communication with all the people that we talk to. We can practice being in silence, and just kind of feeling what that feels like and learning how to grow past the uncomfortableness of it. We can do that with everyone that we talk to. We can practice our communication on being actively engaged and resisting the urge to take a story from the past to try and tie it to something that they're talking about.
Right.
And, you know, being a good listener is actually something that we develop just like a muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, you know, what you brought up hopefully helps people feel more comfortable, but, you know, really encouraging anyone who feels uncomfortable or having questions about, like, you know, I have a close friend who just lost her husband or lost their spouse. What do I say? How do I handle it? We'd be happy to talk to you.
Always.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
We're here to support you.
Yeah. And our services are free of charge. So,
Yes.
I mean, if you want to call, there's no risk to it at all. 805-544-2266, or go to our website at hospiceslo.org. And also inviting you to take our training. We do volunteer training, and we go over these things. The training is free of charge, but we go over and we do practices about how to hold the space for people. You don't necessarily have to be a volunteer.
Yeah.
This is for part of our community education. So,
Yeah, we feel that this is something that everybody could learn if you're interested in it. And when you're going out into your community and supporting your family and friends, outside of us, I mean, that's just a win. We are here to educate our community.
Well, I think that was a great conversation. Thank you for speaking to this very difficult thing.
Yeah.
Till next time.
Yep. Bye.